Have you ever looked around and just felt like your clutter was controlling your life? Well, that's what we're unpacking today. The real reason your stuff is holding you back from reaching your goals. But it's more than just learning the proper steps to declutter. It's realizing that your clutter may be holding you emotionally hostage. Now, there are various reasons and rationales for why people hold on to things. The most common denominator being an over-attachment. So it's not just about the physical things and our poor decluttering habits. It's also about the why and the emotions that hold us hostage. The two biggest being guilt and fear. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt anxious or even guilty at the thought of getting rid of something? If so, that's a big sign that you have an over-attachment that might be holding you back. But I get it. At the beginning of my journey, the guilt I carried at the thought of getting rid of my stuff gave me a reason to justify the chaos. They kept me living a cluttered life for a long time, and I was paying for it as well. Spending money on storage solutions so I could better organize my stuff and the guilt I carried with it. You know, this reminds me of an expression my dad would say. Guilt will take you further than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. And he's right. Guilt has an interesting way of altering our reality and the way we make decisions. And maybe the guilt you're carrying is doing something similar. Now, on the other hand, I had some fears as well that kept me attached to my possessions. The main one being that I was afraid of the future, thinking that I would lose my sense of identity if I took decluttering it too far, or that I would get rid of something and then later regret it, or wish I had held on to it for a little while longer. Raise your hand in the comments if you can relate. And, I didn't realize it then, but as I reflect on it now, it's clear to me that my fears were holding me hostage and controlling the narrative. Now, although I've been decluttering and living with less for several years now, that doesn't mean I'm perfect 100% of the time. I'm still human at the end of the day. So I want to share a recent example, a quick story with you of a moment where fear started to control the narrative and almost got the best of me. After I quit my corporate job at the end of last year, so in October 2023, I remember saying to my wife that, I guess I can donate my work clothes now since I'm no longer sitting in a cubicle in an office Monday through Friday. And after saying that out loud, I was extremely excited about it. But the reality is that it took quite a while for me to actually get around to doing it. And that's because I had a fear that was controlling the narrative. I remember telling myself that, well, maybe I should just hold on to those clothes for a little while longer, just in case things don't work out with my business. At least I'd already have some business casual clothing. See, from the outside looking in, that might sound like a legitimate reason to hold on to those clothes. But the reality is that my fear of failure, my fear of regret was controlling the narrative. And if I allowed it to do so, I would probably still have those clothes today and deeply second guessing my decision to bet on myself and become self-employed with a growing family. Now, I've managed to overcome that fear and I no longer have those clothes. And so I want you to think about the last time you tried to declutter. Did you keep something just in case? Did you create a new narrative justifying why something you haven't used or don't need is suddenly important to you? See, this mindset keeps your drawers and closets filled with more than just stuff. It fills them with fear of the future, fear of regret, and in certain instances, fear of judgment and fear of change. And see, these feelings could be telling you that you have an over-attachment. But in either case, whether it's guilt or fear or something else entirely, it's critical to recognize when your stuff is holding you emotionally hostage and how that's also holding you back from reaching your goals. Now, to help you build some awareness with this, there are a couple of things to look out for. The first is if you're feeling an urge to retreat and ignore your clutter, but you don't due to the fact that it's impacting your daily life, all right? The second thing to look out for is if you're feeling frustrated and stuck in the frozen zone. Now, the frozen zone is a term that I use to describe when we're so overwhelmed by our clutter that we have no idea where to start or what to do, so we just freeze and we do nothing. Number 3 is worrying about how others will act or react to your cluttered environment. So this is going back to the idea of there being a fear of judgment. You're worried how others will judge you and your space because it's cluttered. But we can also take that a step further and say that, well, maybe you're judging yourself for how your space has become cluttered and the chaos that you're holding on to. And then number 4 is experiencing a constant sense of scarcity and anxiety about possible needs for the future. So again, it's going back to the idea of there being a fear of the future, a fear of regret. What if I get rid of something and I find out that I need it later? How about I just hold on to this just in case this happens, right? Now, in all cases, there's a power shift without consent, and your clutter is steering the ship. But it doesn't have to remain that way. You can regain control of your life by taking a practical approach to detachment. So let's go ahead and break this down into a few actionable steps that you can take today that'll make this experience more manageable and meaningful for you. Step 1 is a bit of a prerequisite to the things you need to do to move the needle, and that is to establish firm boundaries. So what you want to do is you want to draw a hard line in the sand and declare that you refuse to let your possessions control your emotions any longer. This goes for guilt, fear, any doubts you have about overcoming sentimentality, and anything else that has held you emotionally hostage. Decide that today marks the beginning of a fresh chapter and an opportunity to embrace a more intentional lifestyle. Step 2 is to develop a letting go mindset. Now, this is all about training your mind to see detachment from possessions as a pathway to freedom rather than loss. And the exercise that really helped me with this was writing, and using writing as an opportunity to deal with how I felt, to deal with my emotions, so that way I could effectively deal with my stuff. And as a visual person, it was extremely helpful for me to see the guilt and the fears that I had written on paper, because that allowed me to then challenge the stories I was telling myself about my stuff, which also helped me realize that letting go is an opportunity to create my life, right? A pathway to freedom rather than loss. And so my encouragement to you is to grab a pen and a piece of paper, or to open the notes app on your phone and just begin to express how you feel without filtering yourself. What stories are you telling yourself about your stuff? And then ask yourself, can I be absolutely certain that this is true? And what other possibilities are out there? Step 3 is to identify what you value. Understanding your core values is essential to navigating life and fostering a successful decluttering experience. When you're clear about what your values are, it means you know who you are and what's important to you. And this is the level of clarity that guides your decisions and actions, including what possessions to keep and let go of. Now, many of us don't take the time to define our values with certainty. And that's why I developed a core values worksheet to help you uncover what's important to you. So if you want to grab a copy of it, you can download it from our website completely free. Just go to ronaldlbanks.com/values. Now, if you already know what your core values are, I'm curious. So comment below what your values are and why those things are important to you. Step 4 is to start with one area. So choose a specific area in your home to kickstart your letting go process. This could be a drawer, a shelf, even your wardrobe. It's completely up to you, right? But here's how I think about choosing the best place to start. And this is a concept that I teach as part of a larger process in my decluttering course. So if you want to learn my method, my approach to decluttering, I'll leave a link in the description. Now, you want to start in an area that sits in the overlap between low effort and high impact. So if we were to draw out a Venn diagram, 2 circles, and how those circles overlap in the middle, that's the best place for you to start. Now, low effort are projects that you can declutter relatively quickly. So if you had some free time on the weekend, you know that you can tackle that area with no problem, as long as you had a clear action plan and your favorite playlist going in the background, right? But high impact are the projects or the clutter in your life that is creating noticeable friction in your daily routine. So think about the areas in your home that you interact with regularly and how decluttering those areas would really make a difference in your day. Now, an example of this is when I helped a lady named Pamela declutter her books publicly on my YouTube channel. Now, Pamela had hundreds of books that were waiting to be read, and as an avid reader, she felt like she couldn't read and enjoy her books the way she wanted. And so her book collection was a low-effort project because she was confident that she could tackle that clutter and knock it out in no time. And she did. She managed to drastically reduce the overall number of books she had in a single weekend because she had a clear action plan based on the advice and the direction that I gave her. Now, on the other hand, that exact same collection was also a high impact project because, again, as an avid reader, she was experiencing friction in her routine because she couldn't read and enjoy the books in the way that she wanted. And so, to make a long story short, the progress she made was absolutely amazing. Like I said, she drastically reduced the overall number of books she had in a single weekend, and she managed to sell most of them as well. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. The video is on my channel, and if you're curious, you can check it out. Now, I shared that example with you to say this. When you're choosing the best place for you to start, right, to start kicking off your letting go process, it really makes a difference to find the overlap between low effort and high impact. This is how you build momentum and feel the benefits of your efforts right from the beginning. Step 5 is to conduct a 90-day check-in. So every 90 days or so, check in with yourself and reflect on your progress. Celebrate decluttering wins and jot down any challenges you're currently facing. You can treat this almost like a running log of your decluttering experience that you can look back on at any time. So if you need extra inspiration or motivation from previous wins, or if you simply want to review the lessons you've learned from different challenges you faced, you'll have most, if not all of those experiences documented. Now, it's also a good idea to review your core values as well, just to make sure that you're honoring what you say is important to you. And if you notice that things have changed, or if you've noticed that you're starting to create new emotional attachments to your stuff, then use this as an opportunity to course correct and detach where necessary. Now, will any of this be easy? Not at all. But it's worth it if you want it. I hope you found some inspiration in this video. And you know what? I'm curious. What are you planning to declutter next? Comment below your plans and the impact you think that will have on your life. Keep growing on your journey, my friend. Keep learning, and always remember to stay true to you. See you in the next one. Peace.